On debate, Senator Moncion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable colleagues, I rise today as the sponsor of Bill S-252, an act to establish Jury Duty Appreciation Week in Canada. Every year, thousands of Canadians are called to jury duty. Canadians, provincial governments, and the federal government recognize that jury duty is an essential part of our legal system and our democracy. This recognition is not, however, given every year, and it's not reflected in the support given to this issue by governments. What's even more under-recognized are the mental health support problems of individuals who perform this civic duty. In my experience as a juror, I've shared with you on a number of occasions here in this chamber the challenges we're dealing with. Across Canada, from province to province and territory to territory, this lack of awareness is detrimental to the advancement of the cause of jurors, an element of our legal system that deserves to be valued and celebrated. My intention with this bill is therefore to create an annual national event dedicated to promoting and raising awareness about the issues affecting jurors and former jurors. In order to honor and show my gratitude to these citizens, I tabled a motion during the last session asking the government to designate the second week of May as Jury Appreciation Week in Canada. The motion was adopted by the Senate on May 12 last. In particular, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Senators Boisvenu and Dalphon, who provided ongoing support for the cause of jury welfare for several years now. I'd also like to make special mention of Senator Couture, who's also concerned about the welfare of jurors and who has spoken in the chamber on this issue. On behalf of the government and the Minister of Justice, Senator Gold also spoke in support of the motion. In his speech, he emphasized the invaluable role of those who serve on a jury and the modest gesture which the adoption of a simple motion to show our appreciation would represent.
Let me quote a short passage from his speech. While the majority of Canadians understand the importance of jury duty and see it as part of their civic responsibility in a free and fair democracy, they often do not fully appreciate how it can disrupt their lives and those of their families. I am grateful for the support of my colleagues and the support of the government in designating a Canadian Jury Duty Appreciation Week. Colleagues, I think you will agree that the issues affecting jury duty deserve our attention and the attention of Canadians at least once a year. I am thinking in particular of recognition of the contribution of jurors and former jurors to the justice system and to democracy, the mental health and well-being of jurors and former jurors, and access to justice and issues of representation and diversity on juries. It is our privilege as senators to have the ability to propose legislation that would proclaim a national day or week. I would like to take this occasion to have the Jury Duty Appreciation Week in Canada proclaimed into law. This official designation will allow for a true representation of the extent and importance of these citizens' contribution to the Canadian justice system. The preamble to Bill S-252 is a good starting point for understanding the importance of this official recognition. The preamble states in part, and I quote, "The designation of Jury Duty Appreciation Week will highlight the work of jurors and raise awareness of the issues surrounding the performance of this civic duty among individuals, organizations, the judiciary as a whole, and the provincial and federal governments. For jurors, the psychological scars can sometimes resurface long after a trial. Like other former jurors, I have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. Although the first-degree murder trial on which I serve as a juror took place 30 years ago, I live with the aftermath of that ordeal every day. It would be nice if once a year, for 1 week, we could acknowledge this reality, which affects thousands of Canadians and their families."
Recognition of jury duty would help encourage and promote ongoing and timely conversations between the federal government, the provinces and territories, and the various stakeholders about the importance to improve support for jurors across Canada. It is also the occasion to remind ourselves of the daily struggle some jurors and former jurors experience with regard to their mental health. Colleagues, the cause of jurors and their welfare has progressed very humbly in recent years. I believe the humble progression is in part due to the absence of a yearly reminder of the importance of jury duty. In 2014, Mark Farrant was a juror in a first-degree murder trial. He helped raise awareness on the need for more jury support in Canada. Drawn from his own experience, he identified the gaps in support provided to jurors. He discovered that the experience was only the tip of the iceberg. Mark was diagnosed with PTSD after the trial, and like many other former jurors, he struggled to find support. In 2016, his advocacy helped prompt the Ontario government to launch a free counseling program for former jurors. In 2017, Mark shed light on the issues at a national level. He brought the 12 angry letters to the attention of parliamentarians and government officials. In those 12 letters, 12 former jurors chronicled their suffering and struggle to find support.
It wasn't until 2017 that for the first time a parliamentary committee addressed the issue. At its June 8, 2017 meeting, the House of Commons Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights passed a motion to undertake a study of counselling and other mental health services for jurors. This study led to the tabling of the report, Better Support for Jurors in Canada, in May 2018. The report's fourth recommendation was the genesis for Bill C-417, first tabled on October 29, 2018. At that time, the Justice Committee recommended creating an exception to the secrecy rule. I must congratulate Senator Boisvenu on the passage of Bill S-206, the former C-417, an act to amend the Criminal Code, Disclosure of Information by Jurors, which implements this recommendation. The bill recently received royal assent on October 18, 2022. Despite the many obstacles from prorogation to elections, Senator Boisvenu successfully saw this file through to the end. The passage of this bill marks a pivotal moment in the quest for adequate support for the psychological well-being of Canadian jurors.
How can we continue this progress? I strongly believe that to bring change, we need to be reminded of the issues at stake. This is exactly what Jury Duty Appreciation Week will help accomplish. This has been the approach in other jurisdictions. The proposed week, the second week of May, coincides with the recognition of such a week by the American Bar Association and by other jurisdictions, notably the state of California and Louisiana. Courts across the U.S., as well as the Texas and Oregon legislature and the Pennsylvania Senate, also recognize a week dedicated to honor jury duty in the month of May. The California legislature designated that week back in 1998. I think it's important to go back to the resolution adopted by the legislature at the time. It reads, and I quote, "Resolved by the Assembly of the State of California, the Senate thereof concurring that the week of May 10, 1998, to May 16, 1998 inclusive, and the second full week in May of each year thereafter shall be proclaimed and celebrated as annual Jury Appreciation Week throughout the state in honor of the thousands of citizens who support the jury system, thereby making the cherished right of trial by jury a reality." This was in 1998. Colleague, in 2022 or 2023, for that matter, I believe that Canada is ready to do the same. In Canada, the week is now recognized by multiple stakeholders and by the federal government. It's not, however, enshrined in law. It was recognized for the first time in 2022 by the Canadian Juries Commission, who took the lead to make jury duty at the forefront nationally from May 9th to May 13th. Let me take the time here to recognize the invaluable contribution of the Commission, its founder and CEO, Mark Farrant, Tina Danzer, COO, CFO, and all of the hardworking board members that accomplish great and important work with very little. Their advocacy and relentless efforts are truly admirable. The official recognition of the week would help the Canadian Juries Commission fill in the gaps in support to jurors across Canada and help their efforts to implement some of the recommendations of the 2018 report of the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, colleagues, support for Bill S-252 will allow us to raise awareness every year about issues related to jury duty for Canadians and governments alike. Given how straightforward the bill is, I hope we can pass it as soon as possible so that it can be sent to the other place. Thank you.
Senator Mark.